Hi guys, it's Mark from Burton Bibles. Welcome back to the channel. Now, maybe if you're like me, you're a big fan of sort of personal sized Bibles. Maybe you're a big fan of the Pitt Minion from Cambridge, available in a whole host of different bindings and translations. Same goes for the Clarion. Maybe you're a big fan of the Clarion with its clear and readable layout. Maybe you really like the traditional Concord with a two-column format and a nice clear legible text and a nice portable and slim sort of design. Maybe you're a fan of all of those things. Well, today we're going to be looking at the brand new Bible from Cambridge. This is the Diadem. Here it is. I've been using this for the last couple of weeks, and today we're going to have a really close look at what this Bible has to offer. It is available as a hardback and in the ESV translation, with or without Apocrypha. We are taking some pre-orders on the Burton Bibles website already. There is a link to that in the description, but this will be available from the 4th of November. So early November this will be released, and orders will start getting fulfilled as soon as the stock becomes available centrally at Cambridge. So without further ado, let's take this Bible to the desk and have a really good look at what it has to offer and see whether it's something that might be of interest to you. So then guys, let's take a good look at this brand new Bible from Cambridge. The Cambridge Diadem. I've been longing to get a good look at this Bible. I've had it for a couple of weeks now since my visit to Cambridge, and I've been using it on an almost daily basis, taking a good look at what this edition offers, and I've been thinking about all of those things so that I can hopefully do a useful and informative video for you guys. So this is the new Diadem. We've said a little bit about it already in our intro, but let's just look at some of the external features of this edition. Now, first of all, let's look at some simple dimensions. It is approximately 8.5 inches high by 6 inches, perhaps just over 6 inches in width, and the edition with the Apocrypha is about 1.5 inches. I can tell you that the Apocrypha adds about 1/4 of an inch. It's about 220 odd pages that it adds to the width of this Bible. So you're looking at about 1.5 inches spine width for the Apocrypha edition and 1.25 inches without the Apocrypha. The edition without the Apocrypha has a slightly different colour jacket, which is a sort of a darker bluer grey sort of colour. So those are some notes about the external dimensions. Let's look at this dust jacket. It does come with a nice purple coloured dust jacket with artwork by Angus MacLean. Angus MacLean is he's the brother of one of the team that were involved in producing this Bible. This illustration, this artwork is called The Unfading Crown, which is sort of very much the idea behind the Diadem. And this picture actually put me in mind of that lovely hymn, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, where it says, did e'er such love and sorrow meet, or thorns compose so rich a crown. So there we have it. It's a nice sturdy hardback. We'll take the dust jacket off just so you can see what's underneath, which is this sort of nice robust sort of vinyl covered hardboard, and it does actually have, if you can see that if we move the light a bit, it does actually have a nice embossed diadem, the crown of thorns diadem, there underneath the text Holy Bible, and it does have some nice gold gilding lettering on the spine as well. Now it does have some nice head and tail bands, which we'll see there, and it has this single really nice quality dark sort of navy bluey sort of colour, a single ribbon on this particular edition. I don't know if the leather editions will have more ribbons. I'm not too sure. Obviously there's no page edge gilding here either, but there will be, I'm sure, on the leather editions, as well as rounded page edges. The most useful thing I can do when talking about the size of this Bible is actually just to compare it to some other editions that may be going across your mind at the moment. So here's the ESV Pitt Minion, just so you can see that size comparison clearly there. It is approximately 20, I think it's 22% to be precise, 22% increase, enlargement over the Pitt Minion. So everything has gone up by that factor, including the font size, which we'll look at in a moment. So we have a Bible that is quite a bit bigger, shall we say, than the Pitt Minion, and quite a bit thicker. I will say as well on the dimensions that I would expect the leather-bound editions, because they will be printed on finer paper, that this book thickness will probably go down again. So just bear that in mind. Now, the closest comparison that I can find in terms of size is the Concord. So here we have the Concord, which is a King James Version reference Bible from Cambridge, and it compares very, very similarly to the Diadem. It's almost an identical footprint, except it is slightly narrower than the Diadem, and of course it is a little slimmer as well, due to this really nice paper quality that's going on in the Concord, and of course this doesn't have the Apocrypha. So it's very, very similar in size to the Concord. And just for your reference, if we take the other sort of smaller Bibles, there's a personal Concord for you, so you can see the size comparison there, and also the Cambridge Cameo, which you can see is again similar sized, and this is the Clarion, which is actually kind of similar, but of course the Diadem has a lot more height. There's the thickness, and you can see that it's also a bit narrower than the Diadem. So that's just how it fits into the Cambridge range in terms of its size. So let's open this now and get into the contents, which is of course the main thing here. Now we'll have a standard Cambridge presentation page, which I'm a big fan of, a plain presentation page like that, and we'll see some production information, of course, on this handy insert page, and we'll see that it is the ESV 2016 edition. So we have the text edition there. It is the 2016 text edition. So we'll also see further down that it is printed and bound in Belarus by Print Corp. Print Corp are capable of doing some really nice work, notably the TBS large print Windsor Bible. I was really impressed with that, and of course they do some other editions for Cambridge as well, including the personal size Concord, which we just saw in our size comparison there. The paper is sourced from the Czech Republic, and I will say that I'm a big fan of this paper. It's very nice. It is a thicker paper. It's a 36 GSM, I believe, paper. Has good opacity, no page curl, some really nice qualities to it indeed. We'll also note from this that it is the 8.5 point font, and it is the Lexicon #1 font, which is very familiar to us now, used in the Pitt Minion, and also I believe it's used in the ESV Crossway, the Crossway Bibles. That is their standard sort of font. So very, very similar indeed. So that 8.5 points is obviously the 22% increase from the 7-point font of the Pitt Minion, that is sometimes just that little bit too small for people. So this is obviously offering a little more size. We'll just zoom in a little bit so we can see all of the page there. So let's get into it a little bit more. We'll have some preface pages, and then we'll get to this, which is a chronology of rulers during biblical times, and I believe this is taken from the NRSV Study Bible, the New Revised Standard Version Study Bible. So that's interesting to see that as well. And then we'll get into the text itself, and here we see the page layout. And of course this is going to be very, very familiar to people who love the Pitt Minion, because it's exactly the same. We've got that 2-column layout, and with a centre column in the middle. And it is of course a paragraph style format. So it's not a chapter and verse Bible here like the ESV Topaz, for example. It is more of a paragraph format. We'll see that the book titles are bold, as are the chapter numbers, and there are no running headers across the top of the page, but we do get these sort of paragraph titles there. If we turn the page, we'll see some evidence of that. You see there's no running headers, but we do have paragraph headers at the start of the chapters, and also midway through the chapter as well if there's a significant paragraph break. So very familiar stuff so far. Of course, being an enlargement of the Pitt Minion, it does have the same pagination and page layouts. So if we turn to Genesis chapter 4 in my ESV Pitt Minion, it should be exactly the same, which I'm sure we will see is the case. So here's my ESV Pitt Minion, and we'll see that it's 5 to 7. Chapter 6 starts at the top of this column here. And chapter 5 finishes down the bottom of that column there. So we can see that it is an identical layout, which of course is a good thing to have, because if you do have a Pitt Minion as well as the Diadem, that you will have consistency across all of your Bibles. If you have a ESV wide margin from Cambridge as well as your kind of desk-based study Bible, then maybe this fills the gap in between the Pitt Minion on the really slim and portable side and the larger desk Bible, the ESV wide margin. This would fit in quite nicely in between as a kind of Bible that you can take to church and also use in the home for studying and reading. You can preach from this very easily, I'd have thought. And so it's a really good way to kind of complete a trilogy, if you like, complete the range. So, as I said already, I like this paper a lot. The opaqueness of the paper is really nice. Minimal ghosting. Being a digital font, it is all line matched as well. So the lines on this side of the page match the lines on that side of the page, which again means there's minimal bleed through and noise coming through the pages. And of course, the camera always tends to exaggerate the ghosting in Bibles, I find. So it's nice to see that this looks really good, and I do love turning the pages of this Bible as well. As I said, the paper is a little thicker, which I think is really nice, and it feels great as you're turning the pages. As I said, the leather editions will be on a different paper, printed and bound in the Netherlands by Jongbloed, and I imagine it will be a 28 GSM, similar paper to what we have in something like the Concord or the Topaz, that sort of ilk. So we'll see a finer quality paper, but certainly there's nothing wrong with this paper. In fact, I rather like it. So we have all the benefits of the Pitt Minion text, the clearness, the clarity, the simple layout, but we have it on that 22% enlargement. And one of the areas where this becomes really apparent and very useful is when it comes to the centre column references. The centre column references are here, and they are aligned to the left of the centre column if they pertain to verses in this column, and they're aligned to the right hand side of the column, like here for example, when they pertain to verses in this column. The verse numbers themselves are bold, and so any verses found in this case chapter 23 and verse 34 will be found here against that verse number in the centre column, and they are marked by little letters in the text. So we'll just offer this up so we can get a good view of that. So if we're looking at the top here, we'll see that there is a reference there marked by the letter I, and there's a reference there marked by the letter H, and they'll of course be found in their respective verse areas in the centre column. So because that's been enlarged by 22%, it's really a lot clearer. I mean, you know, if we're to do that same exercise in this Pitt Minion, you'll really struggle. Well, my eyes will really struggle to see those references. Of course, if you've got great eyesight and you're really good at reading small text, you won't have a problem. But for people who've perhaps used the Pitt Minion and thought it's just too small for me, do take a look at the Diadem, because it makes a big difference. We can't understate the difference that this difference makes. It really is a good increase, and it's well worth taking a look if perhaps you'd wrote the Pitt Minion off for that reason. So So I really do like the reference system in the Diadem, and of course by default the Pitt Minion, and it's great to see it enlarged slightly. I will say this about the centre column, as with the Pitt Minion, the centre column in the Old Testament is slightly narrower than the centre column in the New Testament. So here, for example, it's about 18 or 19 millimetres, probably 18.5 millimetres. And when we come over to the New Testament, you'll see, you can maybe detect already that it's significantly wider. It's probably about 22 millimetres. So 3 or 4 millimetres difference in the centre column between the Old and the New Testament. So that's just something that's a little quirky feature perhaps of the Pitt Minion, which has also there by default found its way into the Diadem, which is an enlarged version. We do have translation notes at the bottom of each page if they're there, which offer alternative renderings and suggestions as to what other texts may read for that particular incident. The poetic layout in this Bible is very nice, as it is in the Pitt Minion. There we have it there. It's sort of centre aligned, which is nice to see, and it makes the poetry really kind of come off the page a bit and breathe a lot easier with that sort of style layout. Now, this version has the Apocrypha, so when we come to the end of the Old Testament, we'll have a few pages to introduce the Apocrypha. So here we are, the Apocrypha. We'll have an index which is there, and there is also a list of maps that are pertinent to the Apocrypha. So at the end of those books, and before we start the New Testament, we'll have some maps here which are really quite nice. I don't think you'll get these in the version without the Apocrypha, so that's worth bearing in mind as well. But there's some nice sort of diagrams and maps there. This is how much the Apocrypha adds. So if we take these 2 pages as well, for example, it's about 220 odd pages, so it's about 1/4 of an inch, nearly a centimetre basically of about 8 millimetres probably of pages. Just so you're aware, the non-apocryphal version will be substantially slimmer than this version. Now, when we do come to the New Testament, it is, as I've said already, a black letter only text. So there we have it. It's black letter. Can be a divisive issue, a deal breaker for some. I realise some won't like the black letter, some won't like the red letter, but such is life, and Cambridge have taken the decision to print red letter only for the leather editions, and I'm pretty sure we've spoke about this before on the channel, but it just seems to be the better selling version, and of course avoids having 2 versions in print, with or without. So here we are. It's if you want the black letter edition, by all means pick up the hardback and enjoy the benefits of the hardback, not least the lower cost as well. Now, when we come to the New Testament, you'll notice that it is not a self-pronouncing text, as found in the Pitt Minion as well. So when we come to those difficult names at the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, there's no symbols and dashes all over the place. It is not a self-pronouncing text. Now finally, I just wanted to mention what comes at the back of this Bible, because it's rather interesting. We do have a concordance, and it's found here. And the concordance is quite substantial. It seems similar to the version in the ESV Topaz that Cambridge have brought out. So when you compare the items, the words and the amount of references to the Topaz, it's identical. But it's not identical to the one that comes in the Pitt Minion. It's substantially more varied and diverse, and there's a lot more references in this concordance than this one here, and you can probably tell that just by looking at that first page. So good to see a better concordance being used in the Diadem. Really do like that. Yeah, and again, you can't understate the value of having a decent concordance in the back of your Bible, so you can find, or hopefully find, that text that's just ringing around in the back of your head, and you want to lay your fingers on it. I don't know whether it's similar to the version in the wide margin edition from Cambridge because I don't have one to hand, sadly, but I can tell you that again it's a better concordance than that is found in the heirloom Bibles from Crossway. I've got one or two of those, and it can, again, this is a better concordance than that one even. So nice to see a good concordance in the Diadem. And of course, to follow that up, we have the now ubiquitous Cambridge maps. We have the 15 Bible maps that are printed on a thick sort of paper stock. I wouldn't have called it a card stock, but it's a much thicker paper. And of course, being enlarged as well, it really pops the colours off the page there. So these maps are really good quality maps from Cambridge, and they're found here in the back of the Diadem. Now, as we come to the back of this jacket, it is worth just pausing for a moment because it does have a list of other versions that will be available. And as I've said already, these will be available in the spring of 2022. There may be some variations to this list, do bear that in mind, but we will have, with the Apocrypha, we'll have a black calfskin leather, a red calfskin leather, and a black calf split leather. So I'll be interested to see that red calfskin. That will certainly look eye-catching. And then without the Apocrypha, we will have a black calfskin leather, a black calf split leather, and a brown calf split leather. So I'll be interested to see that brown calf split leather as well. I think that might look really, really nice. I'm a big fan of the calf split leathers from Cambridge, and so it'll be really nice to see this format of Bible with its nice dimensions, Concord-like dimensions, bound in a leather by Royal Jongbloed, and with that nicer paper, with those slimmer dimensions. I will be very interested to see those come out. Now, one more point before we leave this, and that is price and availability. These are £30 and £35 without the Apocrypha and with the Apocrypha. So obviously you pay an extra £5 to have the Apocrypha with it, and they are available, as mentioned already, I think in my intro, from the 4th of November. So early November. Pre-orders are on the Burton Bibles website, and they'll ship out as soon as they become available from Cambridge. And also to note is that I am sure we will see other translations of the Diadem coming out in the course of the next year or two. Just like the Pitt Minion and the Clarion, I'm sure we'll see some other translations here as well, but no firm news or confirmations of any upcoming so far. Also, I thought I would just add in my my two penneth worth, so to speak. Who is this Bible for? Well, I think three types of people would be good for. People who found the Pitt Minion, of course, just that little bit too difficult to read, such as myself, perhaps. Although I do read the Pitt Minion quite a bit. I tend to need my readers, though. It would suit somebody like that who like the layout, like the text, like the ESV translation, like everything about the Pitt Minion, but just find it that little bit too small to read on the eyes. This will suit you and is well worth a look. Also, people who perhaps like the Concord, the dimensions and the feel of the Concord, but would prefer a modern translation. Who like perhaps the two-column layout, the centre column references. They like that about the Concord, but they would prefer a modern translation or an easier to read translation, one that their church uses, etc., etc. Well, of course, the Diadem is going to be a really good option to look at. And then finally, I thought perhaps anybody who is looking for a nice mid-size reference Bible in a modern translation, the Diadem is going to be worth a look because it just offers a fantastic reading experience. It offers a wonderfully clear page, wonderfully clear layout, nice digital typeface, lots of good references, good concordance, good maps in the back, a really nice chunky but portable dimensions. This Bible is going to be great for anybody who's looking for that sort of mid-size, not too big, not too small reference Bible. So that's who I think it's going to be good for. It's going to be great for preaching from because it's nice and clear. It's going to be good for studying from, and it's going to be good for personal reading as well. So it really is going to be a solid option for people, and I hope it does really well in the market, and I'm sure that it will. Okay guys, well I hope you found that review interesting and informative. I've certainly been enjoying my time with the new Diadem. I really appreciate its clear font, its clear layout, its nice size, and I can't wait to see as well what the leather bound versions of this Bible are going to look like, because I think it could be really stunning. I'm anticipating again some really good production values from Cambridge and Royal Youngbloed. I'll be keen to see what difference the different type of paper makes on the slimness of the volume. I'll be interested to see what that red calfskin looks like. That's definitely an appealing combination, but also the brown calf split. I would love to see what that looks like as well. So all in all, I am really thrilled with how this has turned out. I think it's going to be an excellent entry in the Cambridge range, and I'm sure that it will do really well, and I'm really excited as well about the prospect of other translations coming to the Diadem. We'll have to see what comes out over the next sort of 12 months or so. So fantastic to have had the opportunity to get into that new Bible, and I hope it's something that perhaps you're interested in as well, and that this video has been of some use to you. So please do drop a like and hit that like button. It really does help us out a lot, and of course don't forget to stay subscribed to the channel for videos just like this popping up in your feed. So take care, God bless, and we'll catch up on another video soon. Bye bye.